There we go. It's no longer frozen.
It's now Frozen 2.
Oh. Well, we're going into the unknown for yet another James Bond movie. Hey! This is My Thing, Your Thing.
With Hannah.
And Donovan.
Hello.
Hey. We're back on our James Bond bullshit.
Yeah.
This time, we have fully reached the 1980s.
Damn, seriously?
Yes.
Wow.
This is the 12th James Bond movie.
And we're still Roger Moore, right?
We're still in Roger Moore.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Although,
we
we almost weren't in Roger Moore. But we'll get to that.
We usually do.
Yeah, we usually do. Okay, so, For Your Eyes Only, if you'll remember, that was the movie they planned to make after Spy Who Loved Me. It showed it in the credits that James Bond will be back for Your Eyes Only.
Oh, yeah. I vaguely remember that.
And then Moonraker, they were trying to get on the sci-fi kick.
Because Star Wars happened.
Because Star Wars happened.
I can't believe the last movie that we watched was Moonraker. It feels so long ago.
Yeah, we went on vacation between the last one and this one, and we did some other stuff, so...
I think also my brain is immediately trying to reject so much of the end of that movie.
Yeah, it's really bad, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Moonraker was a huge success. It made the most money of any James Bond film. It was the third most successful if you account for inflation. It did great.
We are not a species built to last.
Here's the problem, though.
Yeah.
It also was the most expensive of the James Bond movies by far.
Yeah, there was some intense set work there.
Yeah, it was more than twice the cost of Spy Who Loved Me, which was more than twice the cost of the previous James Bond movie. So, like, it was a serious increase in the budget, and while it did pay off in that case, there was some thought that they couldn't replicate that.
Sure.
Right around the same time, there was the movie called Heaven's Gate. You ever heard of this movie?
Is that Peter Bogdanovich?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
So Heaven's Gate was a Western that came out in 1980. It was also done by United Artists. It was supposed to be like a huge success, like a huge hit. It had lots of great actors. It had Chris Christopherson and Christopher Walken and John Hurt and Sam Waterston and Brad Dourif and Jeff Bridges, like all these big-time actors. It is, however, maybe one of the biggest flops of all time.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Its budget was $44 million, which, by the way, $10 million more than Moonraker.
Sure.
And it made $3.5 million.
Ooh.
Not $3.5 million on top of its budget. No, it took in total $3.5 million.
Ouchie.
That is a $40 million loss. And that was insane. And a lot of people liked the movie. Like, critically, it was not bad. I've never seen it, but critically, like, people were like, yeah, it was pretty good.
Uh-huh.
But it just didn't make any money. And I think, a lot at the time, there were a lot of think pieces about, well, this is the death of the Western. Like, no one's going to want to watch Westerns anymore.
Yeah.
Culturally, it's just moved past all that kind of stuff. But
we are, at this point, well past the age of the spaghetti Western.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, this is 1980 after all.
Yeah.
And because of that, UA just did not have money. Like, they were like, we know James Bond is always a success.
Yeah.
We know it just made us $210 million. We love you, James. We're going to have to cut the budget a little bit.
Sure.
Because we don't want to take any more chances.
Can I make a guess at how much money they're going to spend on this movie?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going to guess more than 5, less than 10. I'm going to say 7.
No. They're going to do a lot more than that.
Okay.
They're going to do $28 million.
That's still a lot of money.
Which is $6 million less than Moonraker.
Yeah.
But even that, I think, was more than they wanted to. It just kind of ended up being what they had to.
Oh, sure.
The late 70s, there was a big inflation crisis.
Yeah.
And there was a recession in the early 80s.
Oh, no.
So I think to a certain extent, them thinking, well, in 1977, we spent $14 million on Spy Who Loved Me, and then in 1981, we're spending $28 million. Yeah, that's twice as much per dollar, but, like, if you consider everything, like, it's not that much more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. In making this cheaper, they felt like they had to scale it down a bit. Moonraker was big. It was sci-fi. It was literally in space. But it was also the most ridiculous.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And some of the like die-hard James Bond fans didn't like it. They didn't go for it. You know, it kind of brought James Bond to an even wider audience than it already had. Very mainstream, space, all that kind of stuff. But like the die-hard James Bond fans who loved it from the beginning already kind of hated it. And there were people at the time who really didn't like it. I think I mentioned like Sean Connery didn't like it. You know, a lot of other people were just like, no, we're not going to go for this.
This is not the ride that I signed up for.
Yeah. Exactly. So this one, similar to On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which was kind of the same thing back in the 60s, would be kind of a reset. They're going to do a more classic Bond that's not as big and crazy and over the top. It's going to be more like down to earth and gritty and all this kind of stuff. That was the idea. First hurdle, though, is that they couldn't find a director. All of the directors that they wanted to work with were too expensive, basically.
Sure.
You know?
They missed out getting Spielberg for cheap.
Yeah, they sure did. And I'm kind of surprised they didn't offer him the job because he wanted to do it so bad. But they pretty much asked every other director who had already done a James Bond movie, all the way back to Terrence Young, to say, hey, do you want to do it? And a lot of them passed on it. A lot of them said, yeah, but for however much money, they didn't want to do it. So they were kind of like, well, who do we get? What's a known quantity? Somebody that we know is going to do a good job, who we've already worked with, who isn't going to be crazy expensive. So they get this guy named John Glenn. John Glenn had been a second unit director on Her Majesty's Secret Service, on Spy Who Loved Me, Moonraker. He also had worked on Superman, by the way.
Oh, okay.
So he was involved in the James Bond stuff. And if you remember, this is just a little bit of film stuff. Second units versus first units in filming.
Yeah.
Second units are usually the units that do like the outdoor scenes, the stunts, all of that kind of stuff. So John Glenn had a reputation for being good with action. That was like his thing, that was like his calling card. They went to Tom Mankiewicz and Christopher Wood, who had both worked on scripts previously for James Bond. They wrote one, they didn't like it, they threw it out. So they went back to Richard Maybaum, who had done a bunch of the scripts up to this point, and also started working with this guy named Michael G. Wilson. I kind of mentioned him in the last one.
I was going to say this name sounds a little familiar.
Yeah, Michael G. Wilson is the son of Albert Broccoli.
Oh, that's why.
Yep, and he had done a little bit of work on, I think, the last film, and he had some connections to the Aikido instructor who was Chang, the bad guy from last one. He's going to be inextricably tied to all of the James Bond films going forward, like up to now, basically.
Really?
Yes, he is going to write, and then he's going to produce a lot of them.
Okay.
Big part of the Broccoli clan.
Yeah.
Ken Adam,
Uh-huh.
he was busy with a movie called Pennies from Heaven, so they were not going to go back and get him. And unfortunately,
No.
we're no more Ken Adam in James Bond.
Oh, so sad. I feel like we talked about this last episode. And
Yeah.
I'm going to mourn the loss. Perhaps forever. We'll have to rewatch a bunch of Venture Bros to make ourselves feel better.
Good news, they got the second best thing. This guy by the name of Peter Lamont. Peter Lamont had been doing set decoration since Goldfinger. He was the art director since Live and Let Die, and he would do every James Bond film after this going forward up until Casino Royale. And he was kind of like Ken Adams' like protege.
Oh, cool.
So
Good.
he was like, the second in command, and when they couldn't get Ken Adam, he kind of stepped up and filled in. And I think carries the aesthetic pretty well.
Good to know.
He also did Aliens, he did True Lies, and he did Titanic. So he's got some James Cameron bona fides a little bit later on.
Well, dang.
He was also the assistant set decorator for another film.
Was it Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang!
Yes! We're back, baby!
Hell yeah! So, yeah. Peter Lamont does a good job.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm jazzed. I'm mourning the loss of Ken Adam, but I'm excited for the future.
Yes. Before you mentioned that we're still doing Roger Moore, right?
Yeah.
Well, we almost didn't.
Here.
Apparently, Moore was 54 and didn't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, especially if they're going to go for more like an action kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, you're 54, you don't necessarily want to be like flipping and kicking people.
Yeah. They were considering trying to get a new Bond at this point, and apparently Roger Moore kind of didn't want to do it anymore. He was kind of like, sort of want to retire. So they went back to the actor drawing board again, which we've talked about a few times. Michael Billington, a guy we've mentioned before, they considered him, Lewis Collins, Michael Jaston, a couple other actors. But there were two really interesting ones. The first is this guy by the name of Ian Ogilvy. Ian Ogilvy had been playing Simon Templar in the new The Saint series.
Oh.
So, you know, like...
Yeah.
Simon Templar is like the minor league baseball team. You got to call him up to be James Bond. He was educated at Eton College, just like Ian Fleming. He was, at the time, doing the audiobook version of the James Bond novels. Like, he was the voice of the audiobook version of the James Bond novels. He seemed kind of like a good fit.
Yeah.
That was one guy they were talking to. Second was this other guy by the name of Timothy Dalton.
I recognize that name.
Yeah. Timothy Dalton was kind of an up-and-coming big star in the UK at the time. Like, he had been sort of considered back even, like, on Her Majesty's Secret Service days, but he was a little too young then. I think he was, like, in his 20s. And he was a guy that people kind of kept an eye on. And the cool thing about Timothy Dalton was that not only was he, like, you know, he had, like, the look and he had done some, like, action, but, like, he had done some, like, you know, serious, like, costume dramas and stuff like that, too. Like, you know, people thought that he was a really good actor.
Sure.
You know, he actually decided to sort of turn down the offer because he thought that the Moonraker was too silly. He thought the movies were getting too weird with it. And knowing what we know about For Your Eyes Only being sort of a back-to-basics Bond, maybe he would have preferred it. But, you know, he, I guess, didn't know that at the time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is For Your Eyes Only based on an Ian Fleming novel?
It is.
Okay.
It's based on, actually, I think, a short story.
Oh, okay.
But, yes, it's based on some Ian Fleming stuff. Eventually, though, they decided to stick with Roger Moore, largely because there were rumors that there would be another James Bond film coming out soon. And so they kind of were like, well, we want to keep the guy who's, like, doing a good job for us.
Oh, like a competing Bond movie?
Yes.
Oh.
We'll get to that. Film score would not be done by John Barry. It would be done by a guy named Bill Conti, who did the score for the Rocky films, as well as Karate Kid and The Right Stuff.
For a second, when he said the Rocky films, I was like, oh, Rocky Horror Picture Show? No, wrong thing.
No. But the fact that we're going to Bill Conti, who did those films, that is like the signpost we are officially in the 1980s. Like,
Yeah.
The sound is going to be very different. You will notice. They wanted Blondie to play the song.
What?
Yep, they hired Blondie, but Blondie was like, hey, we want to write our own song. And the producers were like, no. You're going to play the song that we're going to write. And they said, nah, fuck that.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah,
you have to play the song we want you to. We're the studio. We have the money. Don't look at our empty bank account.
Yeah. So instead, they got it sung by Sheena Easton, and who actually is going to appear on screen. She's going to be the first James Bond themed singer who's actually going to be in the movie.
Cool.
Yep. Two big singles, Modern Girl, 9 to 5, were in the top 10 at the time. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She was a big, you know. She also did a ton of cartoon voices. Like, if you just look up Sheena Easton, she did a bunch of cartoon voices.
Yeah, she was in like 6 episodes of Gargoyles.
Oh, hell yeah. Love Gargoyles.
Yeah, Gargoyles is great.
Oh, man.
Anyway.
Evil Will Riker. Here we go. We're going to watch this one. And I'm interested to see how you feel about the change in tone, or if you even think there really is a change in tone. This movie is generally considered by, like, diehard James Bond fans to be, like, one that they like. Because it was like well, we're done with all that silliness. Now we're back to the real shit.
Yeah, it's 80s. We've got grit now.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
All right. Let's go.
All right.
It's such a sunny day, such a sunny day, such a sunny day away
All right. Okay. How you feeling?
That was really good.
I'm happy to hear you say that.
Yeah, I really like that one.
I'm a little surprised, but I'm not like upset about it.
Oh, why
Yeah.
are you a little surprised?
I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen this one, and while this is generally considered one of the better Moore films,
Yeah.
80s Roger Moore was definitely like people were very like, oh geez, you know. I'll get into like sort of how people felt about it then and how people feel about it now, but you know, like when people make the lists of like the top 10 James Bond films, this one maybe falls in like the 8-9 range or something like that. Like this is a like borderline, like a good but not great one, generally speaking.
Yeah, I can understand that. There definitely are some, like, bits that kind of meander for a bit.
Yeah,
There's some shit that could have just fully cut out and it wouldn't really be that big of a problem.
sure.
Here's what works for me.
Mm-hmm.
There is a fully formed female character
Yeah.
with, like, a motivation.
Yeah.
And she does not immediately fall for Bond's weird reality distortion field.
Yeah. It takes the whole movie essentially.
Yeah, she like, you know, she has her whole revenge arc and like then.
Uh-huh.
I like there aren't like gadgets, which is a thing that I really like, but Q is here and I love that.
Yeah.
There were some moments where it was like, oh, this is just working because it has to for the movie. Like,
Yeah.
the only reason this works for Bond is because otherwise the movie is over.
Yeah, sure. You know, it's a lot of, oh, take them away instead of like, just shoot them in the head right there.
Yeah.
Save us the trouble.
There was some of that, but there wasn't like a whole lot of it.
Yeah.
And there was some like this is only working because Bond is the one who is doing it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't egregious like it was in oh God, I don't even remember. It might have been oh God, what was I can never remember the name of the one with the tarot lady.
Oh, that's Live and Let Die.
Live and Let Die, yeah.
Yeah, which of the ones that we have watched so far, I consider the worst.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would put that down on the bottom for me.
Yeah.
So, and like, you know, there's interesting spy shit that happens.
Yeah.
And it's like the moving plot is a spy thing. There is a thing
Yeah.
that two spy agencies are trying to get.
Yeah, it definitely is the first one in a while to feel like a spy movie and not necessarily like a James Bond movie.
Yeah, like the last movie, like, you know, not necessarily any, but like a lot of the times when Spectre shows up, it
Yeah.
feels less like a spy movie and more like kind of like an action hero movie, not like
Sure.
a superhero
I know
movie.
what you mean, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny you should mention that because the movie starts with Blofeld kind of.
Kind of. There's
So-
a guy in his shirt and he
Yeah.
doesn't have any hair.
So I know I've talked a lot about the Kevin McClory Thunderball legal issues and all that kind of stuff. At this point, Kevin McClory was trying to make another James Bond movie. And so he was establishing his IP. And one of the big things was that, you know, Spectre was his idea, Blofeld was his character, no one was allowed to use that stuff. So this one they sort of made like he's just a bald guy in a wheelchair with a cat. We didn't say he was Blofeld. We didn't say anything about Spectre.
He's wearing the exact same shade of gray shirt, but
Yeah.
don't worry about it.
And in a weird way, I almost sort of see it as like a, you know, they drop him in the big thing, and you know, he leaves the flowers on the grave of his wife from On Her Majesty's Secret Service when he was a completely different ass guy.
yeah, Teresa Bond.
Yep.
That was actually 2 guys ago because there was a Sean Connery in between.
Yeah, he was a totally different guy back then. I kind of feel like it's almost like, hey, yeah, we know this was old James Bond. We're throwing it out, and we're gonna
Yeah.
go in a new direction. It's gonna be different music. We're gonna do a whole different thing, and I think it kind of works.
It works
Yeah.
for me, certainly. And it could just be that like this is paced like a more modern movie.
Yeah.
Like I've watched more action movies from the 80s, so I have a better idea of like how it's supposed to go.
Yeah,
And
totally.
it goes like that. Like
Mhm. I'm actually, now that you say that, I'm very interested to see how you feel about the Timothy Dalton films because they are so divisive for almost that exact reason. James Bond deals with Blofeld, quote unquote. And then we get the intro title credits. The song, I don't particularly love this one, although some people do. Some people think it's one of the best ones. It was nominated for an Oscar this year. It's just not really one that I particularly love.
It's fine. It plays.
Yeah,
Whatever.
it's fine. And then we get back, and we see this boat.
It's a fishing boat.
It's a fishing
very
boat.
explicitly a fishing boat. It has all of the equipment and is currently hauling in fish.
Yep. And then we see this guy who seems to be in sort of like a sailor uniform smoking a cigarette, and then he walks inside the boat past like a false wall, and in there it's like a spy boat.
There's a whole separate section of this boat that is a secret spy base.
Yeah.
It's like we're going to see later like this boat underwater, and from like the first shot I could be like, okay, maybe there's some weird like ballast stuff going on here where there's like more of the boat underwater.
Yeah.
It's like an iceberg kind of thing. Fine, whatever. Like
Yeah.
I'll suspend my disbelief that much. But then the boat sinks, and later we see it sunken, and it's just boat shaped. It's just boat size.
It doesn't seem to make sense that they would be able to put that area in the boat, and then also like where are all those guys sleeping?
Yeah.
You know, like
It's a goddamn TARDIS inside the boat.
it's a little weird. But anyway, they've got this thing in there, which is called the ATAC, ATAC, and it stands for something I don't remember.
It doesn't matter.
It's a MacGuffin. It's basically the MacGuffin of the film. It's some like special nuclear code controller for like all the nuclear submarines.
Yeah, it's like a thing that they use to tell the nuclear submarines where to shoot, and if the bad guys get their hands on it, they can use the like British nuclear subs to attack British cities.
Yeah, essentially. That's the stakes that we sort of understand. The ship is attacked with a mine. What?
I was just gonna say, was it attacked or did they just pull up a mine?
It was we saw
it was
later
planted.
on in the
Oh, yeah,
warehouse
there was
that there
more,
were
okay.
mines in there. So, you know, they were attacked by a mine and it was blown up, and fuck, that sucks. So what we see after that is we see this boat in Greece, and it's this girl gets on the boat and she starts talking to her parents, and it seems like it's like an archaeological like research ship.
Yeah.
You know?
The gentleman has all sorts of maps and things in front of him.
Yeah.
And he's got a pet parrot that he like feeds pistachios to, and the parrot like says, "Give me a kiss" or "Let me down" or whatever.
His name is Max. He's adorable.
He's very cute.
And the plane drops this woman off, and that's the daughter of this guy. And then he turns around and then he shoots everyone on the boat.
Yeah.
And it turns out that guy's name is Gonzalez, and he's like an assassin. He kills everybody on the boat except for the girl who just dropped off. Well, not everybody, but like the dad and the mom and you know. She then provides like a description to the Greek police, and we find out that it's this guy Gonzalez. We cut back to England, and they get James Bond in. We have a nice scene with Moneypenny.
I did like that. There's like, so there's, we haven't really talked about it, but there's this little like thing that James Bond often, not every time, but oftentimes does when he walks into the office where he like throws his hat on the coat rack.
Yeah.
And so there's this really cute shot where like Moneypenny opens a drawer and there's a whole little like makeup case and a mirror flips up, and
Yeah.
she's like adjusting her lipstick, and then you see over her shoulder behind her in the mirror,
Yeah.
like the hat lands on the coat rack. I thought that was cute.
Yeah, it was cool. And he goes in there and he talks to not M, because apparently M is on leave in real life. The guy who played M is dead.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, we talked about that last time. Bernard Lee unfortunately died of cancer, I believe, before this movie came out. Kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But we see this other guy who is not really ever named. But
He's just like the Minister of Defense.
well, no, we do see the Minister of Defense, and he's been in a couple of them. But then there's this other guy who's there.
Yeah. Skinny younger guy.
Yes. I'll talk about him a little bit later. And Bond is given the mission to track down Gonzalez and figure out who hired him.
Yes, because the dead guy on the boat had been doing essentially like deep sea research and like a fact-finding mission essentially
Yep.
for the British agent trying to figure out where the ATAC system went down.
Yeah, where the boat went down. So, like, this is like a spy plot. Like, we've got all the pieces. Like, this guy was working for the British to find the ship that went down. Assassin guy took him out. We got to find out who hired this assassin so we can follow the plot.
Yeah.
So far so good. James Bond gets to this guy's house, and there's this creepy German-looking guy with octagonal glasses paying him a big briefcase full of money. and so, well, very obviously that must be who we're after.
Yeah, that's whoever paid him.
Yeah, James Bond gets captured, as he often does, but then Gonzalez gets hit by a crossbow bolt.
He's like about to dive into the water and then just crossbow bolt through the back.
And it's just like, huh? Yeah, and it's like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, and then there's a fight scene. He runs away, and it turns out that the lady,
the girl who got dropped off on the boat.
That's Melina Havelock, the daughter of Sir Timothy Havelock, who got killed earlier, and she's doing revenge.
Yeah, she's sworn a quest of revenge.
Yes, and
is super handy with a crossbow.
Yeah, she's really good with a crossbow. She kills like 4 people in this movie with a crossbow.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of incredible. And she helps James Bond get out of that bind, and then they escape in her car, which is like a shitty Citroen, like whatever, 2CV car or whatever.
It looks like a worse Beetle.
Yeah, it's they get overtaken by the bad guys driving real cars, but it's a fun little chase scene, and they use their wits to get away.
It is a fun little chase scene, and it is like one of the examples of, oh, that's a little bit annoying, where like when she's driving, they can't get away from the guys, but like then James Bond takes over driving, and like the car, he literally said to her something about like, we don't have enough horsepower.
Yeah.
And so then James Bond starts driving, and then the car is just better. Like a lot of it is his actual driving technique, but also it's like he has absolutely no regard for their safety. They are like tumbling down these Grecian olive tree filled hills, and like by the end the car would have died several times. It's completely smushed in. Like they're not wearing seatbelts, so they would have died in this.
But they drive through like this tiny little Spanish town, and they drive through this tiny little like
Spain or Greece?
It was Spain.
Oh, okay.
'Cause there was
My bad.
The bus to Madrid. That part was in Spain. There's a lot of the movie that takes place in Greece, and then there's parts that take place in Spain, and
then there's parts that take place in like the Italian Alps.
Yeah, so it's a we're all over Southern Europe here. A little confusing, but anyway, they go through like olive
like an
fields
olive
and
farm.
stuff.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun.
A bunch of olive trees planted on a hill, and like the road up it has all sorts of like switchbacks.
Yeah.
So like the car keeps like falling down the hill and then like intercepting it on like the next road and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. But he escapes. He goes back to England, and
I was gonna say, he tells Melina, and he's like, oh, you shouldn't take revenge. It's a bad thing to take revenge.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that we started this movie with him taking revenge on the woman who killed his wife for, I think, the 3rd time.
Do you mean Blofeld? You're on the guy on Blofeld.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said woman.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah, on the guy who killed his wife. Yeah. Although he was trying to kill him, to be fair. Like.
Yeah, but still, like if James Bond is the same character throughout the whole thing,
Which we're assuming
he is, Sean Connery, James Bond, killed Blofeld specifically because he killed his wife, Teresa Bond,
who was in a previous incarnation.
Yeah. So like he's taken revenge, and even now he's like, I'm gonna kill you because you killed my wife.
Yeah.
Well, you're also actively trying to kill me. But like they had that shot at the beginning where he was at Teresa Bond's grave to like kind of set up the, hey, do you remember how she died? It was Blofeld, and then the Blofeld bullshit, well, not Blofeld bullshit happened.
Yeah, I mean, James Bond has explicitly taken revenge several times.
Multiple times.
The fact that he's like warning her away from taking revenge is a little dumb, but whatever.
Maybe he's saying that because he's just bad at it, because Blofeld keeps coming back.
Yeah, he says, if you're gonna do revenge, dig 2 graves, but honestly it's dig 0 graves because nobody died.
Or dig like 8 graves because you're gonna have to keep killing him.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, James Bond goes back to England, and the Minister of Defense is like, James, you screwed it up. The guy died instead of you being able to get any information. And he's like, no, I saw this creepy-looking German guy with weird octagonal eyeglasses. So he's like, all right, well, use the identify machine or whatever the fuck. And,
Identitor 3000.
and so he just goes down and they create a computer-generated image of this guy's face, and then in 20 seconds are able to print off this guy's whole like Interpol like file,
Yeah.
which is some sci-fi bullshit. Like Moonraker is some sci-fi bullshit. They go to space and they have like a space station where gravity leaks out for the door. But like this is some sci-fi bullshit too. Like spy-fi. Hey. This is from sci-fi bullshit too, because like we don't have that shit now, and we have like facial recognition technology that's pretty damn good. But you can't like describe a face to a computer and then be able to tell you, oh yeah, that's this guy. Like that's not how that works.
There are 8 criminals in the whole world, and they all have distinct features.
Yeah, exactly. And they're always wearing the same glasses.
Oh my god, when I was a kid, I used to play this like Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego game.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah, where like you would travel around and talk to people, and they would give you clues like his hair was the same color as honey or whatever, and you had to like build a little profile of the bad guy, and like they would also give you clues about where they were, and that was the geography part. And it's basically that. Like it's basically the game that I played as a child in the 90s.
Yeah, it's Guess Who, but with
Yeah.
the computer, and
Yeah.
So this guy works for Greek smugglers.
Yeah.
We know he works for Greek smugglers. And then James Bond is like, well, we have a contact for you. This guy, Christados, he was given the King's Medal for resistance efforts against Germany in World War II. Go talk to him, because he'll be able to help you. And he's in Italy, specifically at the Olympic Village for the Cortina Winter Olympics, which I think happened in the 70s. Doesn't matter. He goes there and makes contact with him, and we meet a very annoying, very young figure skater lady that's being sponsored by him. This guy, Chrysatos.
Yeah, it's really weird. Her name is BB, and like
Oh yeah, her last name is Doll too. Her name is BB Doll. Yeah, she's the one that has the dumb name in this one, and she's kind of well known for being a bad actress. I just
She was not great, but I kind of put it down to like, oh, she's clearly like still very young.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about her later, but yeah, it's really uncomfortable because she's probably, you have to expect like 16, because she's like gonna be a figure skater in the Olympics or whatever, and she's throwing himself at James Bond, but give James Bond credit, he is not interested.
Yeah.
He is like, you're a child, get away from me.
He doesn't really say it explicitly like that, but he is very clearly not attracted to her. So
I
like,
mean,
again, at points, it's not like he never says like you're too young for me, but he just says something about like
No, he says, put your clothes on and I'll buy you an ice cream.
Oh, okay,
which
fair.
to me says, you are a
You are
child.
yeah.
I mean,
in a very polite British sort of way.
yes. And good on you, James. Like, I respect that. For how these movies have been with stuff like that, when that happened, I think Hannah and I both were just sort of like, oh, well, look at that. Good job, James.
Good job. It does make sense. There's like a particular episode of Archer where they're like in like a Swiss ski chateau kind of thing, and there's a very young girl who keeps throwing herself at Archer.
I think it's specifically a reference to this.
It's exactly a reference to this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So he goes to watch the biathlon where this East German guy, whose name I cannot...
It's Chris something or other.
Yeah, like Friedrich or whatever the fuck. And BB is talking to him and is just like, oh, yeah, that's my boyfriend or
I love
whatever.
him so much. And
Yeah.
every time he looks at her, he looks like he's about to puke.
Yeah, he's not happy about this situation whatsoever. James then uses this moment to kind of sneak off and try to get information about Locke, the guy that they're following, the guy with the glasses, the weird guy.
Yeah.
Because he is in the area. And then it turns out that Friedrich is like an assassin working with him. We actually find out later he works for the KGB. And he's actually shooting at James Bond with his biathlon rifle.
There's a whole like ski chase. People keep shooting at each other. James Bond loses like both of his skiing stick things.
Yeah.
It's a little bit funny. It does go a little long, I think.
Yeah.
But you know, it's good.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Fun.
Does Melina show up in the town before or after the
Oh,
ski
yeah.
chase?
And then Melina shows up there at the town, And apparently she got a telegram from James Bond to meet him there. And James, that's like the first thing that tips James off that something's off, because he's like, I didn't do that.
I didn't do that.
Something's going on
Someone's
here.
trying to kill you. You have to leave. And she's like, I need revenge.
Yes. So then James does a ski jump.
Yeah, James does a ski jump.
Where he is hassled on the ski jump by Klaus. We'll talk about Klaus later. He's able to escape while doing all this skiing. As you said, it goes a little long, but and then he like follows some bobsledders for a bit while these guys are motorcycling down. It's kind of fun. It reminds me a little bit of the, like, you know how the in Moonraker, where they have this shot through like Venice where they're doing the boat chase and all that kind of stuff. This is a similar level of ridiculousness, but it's like ice and snow and you know, skiing and stuff.
So there are like these two guys on motorcycles, and they've got like spikes and chains so that they can like motorcycle around on the snow and ice.
Yeah.
And they're like going down a ski hill or ski mountain or whatever. And the whole time I'm like, hey, shouldn't there be like, I don't know, like a snow patrol or something?
Yeah, shouldn't like Italy have police?
Shouldn't the band Snow Patrol and show up and tell them to fuck off? And then, okay, I don't remember how he gets from the Swiss Alps to the casino.
Well, he makes contact with Christados.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And Christados is like, I think I know who it is. I think it's this guy Colombo, and he's in Corfu.
Oh, yeah,
So-
they call him the Dove.
Yeah, they call him the Dove. Come with me. So he goes to Corfu, and they meet at the casino there. And in the casino, we meet this character, the Countess Liesel, and she seems to be the mistress of this Colombo character. And Christados and Bond sort of like make a plan to basically kill him because he's...
Ostensibly, he's the guy who ordered the murder of Melina's parents.
Yeah, of Havelock, and, you know, he's also a heroin smuggler,
Yeah.
which in the 1980s was the worst thing you could be in the world.
Yeah.
Was, like, involved with drugs in any way. Columbo figures this out because this is, like, his casino. He, like, runs it or whatever.
He's got the place bugged. There's like a little tape recorder, like, underneath the light on their table.
Mm-hmm. And so Columbo gets the Countess to basically like they sort of do a play fight, and then she like leaves the casino with Bond and goes to her like beach house essentially.
Yeah.
And they have sex, and you know, the Countess is obviously younger than Bond, but she's at least like an age that like she's probably in her like late 30s.
Yeah.
So like it's like okay, yeah, like late 30s, early 50s. Like that's a fine relationship, and it's like not icky like, you know, BB with 16-year-old is.
Or Melina.
Yeah, she's in her like mid 20s, so it's like gross, but at the same time, like, you know, 25 is better than goddamn 16. Jesus Christ. Whatever. And, you know, as we kind of mentioned, like, she isn't that interested in James Bond until she completes her mission, and then they kind of like get together at the end, which
That's when the reality distortion field kicks in.
yeah, which all right. Okay.
Yeah, fine.
You know what? Like, if it worked like that for Spy Who Loved Me, that would have been better too. You know, like Agent Triple X having sex with James Bond even after finding out that like he killed her like boyfriend or like love of her life or whatever is a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, at least this one it kind of makes some sense.
So this is also the bit with Countess Liesel is also one of the bits that like I think you could probably cut from the movie and like you wouldn't really lose anything. Like you just have to have him like the Dove make contact with Bond in some different way.
Yeah.
They just wanted to kill a lady.
Yeah, so the Locke and his goons show up, including Klaus. Again, we'll talk about Klaus later. They show up and they swarm the beach and they try to attack Bond and Liesel. They kill her, but they don't kill Bond. And then right as Locke and Klaus are going to kill Bond, Klaus gets shot with a spear gun.
Yeah.
We think for a minute it's like a bow, like a crossbow. And we think,
Melina's there again.
Melina's there. No. It's actually these other guys with doves on their swimsuits, and they knock James Bond out, and you're kind of like, hey
What the fuck?
That doesn't make any sense.
I thought they were trying to kill him.
And then James Bond wakes up on the boat, and he meets with this Miles Colombo, and Miles Colombo is like, no, I'm not the bad guy. Christados is the bad guy.
Look, I'm a smuggler, but I'm not a drug smuggler.
Yeah, and and he was, awarded the King's Cross, but he was actually a double agent and was never trustworthy. And, that's a classic spy, plot. That makes a lot of sense. It's like the contact that you've been working with, it turns out that he's a double agent the whole time, and that the guy that you were fighting against was actually the one who was on your side. That's some classic spy shit, and I think it works really well. And I think it's sold by the fact that Julian Glover, who plays Christados, and Chaim Topol, who plays Columbo, are good actors. Like, the two of them pull it off really well.
They did really, really good. I liked both of them in their roles.
Yes. So, I think that works pretty well. James Bond is skeptical at first, but then Columbo hands him a gun. He pulls the gun on James Bond and then turns it around and hands it to him and is like, I'm a good judge of character. And then James Bond kind of points it at him and he's like, okay. He's like, he gave me a gun to shoot him.
Yeah.
So, he must trust me in some way. That night, they attack a warehouse owned by Christados, and it's got opium, it's got bombs, it's got a diving suit. It's very obvious that Christados is the one that's been working against Bond the whole time.
Yeah. Big warehouse fight, bunch of shit blows up, bunch of red shirts die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Classic, James Bond, take a bunch of guys and go attack a base thing. It happens a bunch. In fact, it happens later in this movie, too. But we now sort of have everything figured out. We have the sides all figured out. He reconnects with Melina, and they go and dive down into the ship to retrieve the ATAC.
Oh, yeah, right. They do this weird... so first he goes diving to, wherever her dad was, uncovering ancient ruins under sea.
Yeah.
And, they go and talk, and Melina does this weird thing where they're underwater, they're scuba diving, and she just, points off to the side, and they, swim a little bit away, and then she takes off her air pack and leaves it underwater, and then they go up to the boat.
Yeah, it seems really weird, and it's never explained. I wish that there had even just been one line where she said why she did that.
Yeah.
It would have been so much better.
They need it for the end, but the fact that she just fucking does that and there's no explanation, it's the opposite of the thing that I loved in Dr. No, where he was putting the hair on the door.
Yeah,
it's the opposite of that.
Yeah, it was that in that movie it's very obvious what he's trying to do. In this movie it's not in any way obvious what he's trying to do.
So then they get in her dad's submersible and they go down to the boat to try and take the ATAC thing out.
Yep, which they do. They successfully do. But while they're down there, they're attacked by a guy in a diving suit.
A really big metal diving suit with like crushy claws.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And
I'm gonna clamp ya.
He grabs the ATAC away from James Bond, but James Bond attaches a thermite charge that was supposed to destroy the ATAC to the back of him.
Yeah, that poor guy at the beginning who couldn't. There's too much water coming in, and he couldn't pull the lever to destroy the thing.
Mm-hmm.
James Bond is like, they never actually destroyed this. How dare they? I'm like, man, he was drowning. He was actively drowning.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of says that. He's like, well, maybe they didn't have time. Yeah, seems like they didn't.
So yeah, he attaches this thermite charge to this guy, and both of their diving suits are damaged at this point, so they're desperately trying to get out of there. And the charge goes off, and it explodes. And now I'm not a scientist, right? But I don't think...
I'm not an explosionologist.
But I'm pretty sure that thermite just burns really hot. I don't think it has a concussive explosion.
Yeah, it doesn't do that.
Unless there was some other sort of highly combustible material in there. I just don't think that thermite... it burns really hot. The Mythbusters burnt a car in half with it, but it's not a concussive explosion.
No.
And the whole fucking boat explodes.
Yeah, I don't think it would work that way either.
I don't either.
But then they have a fight between two submarines because the enemies have a submarine, and that's interesting. But then they get up onto the boat, and then the boat was taken over by bad guys. So, it's this kind of funny thing where it's they beat the one bad guy and then they beat the second bad guy and then they get up to the top and the bad guys are already in charge. It's sort of a little pointless. It's well, why did they send submarine down if they
were just going to be there?
They were just going to be there already. Doesn't matter. They get to the top. Bad guys get the ATAC, and they say, we are going to take it to St. Cyril.
No, they.
Yeah, that's what they say. They're going to take it to St. Cyril to meet with the Russian general, which is General Gogol, who we've seen already.
Do they say that in front of Bond? I thought the bird gave them.
They say it on the boat in front of the bird.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because the bird, Havelock, has a parrot.
Max the parrot.
Max the parrot, yes. And they say it in front of the bird, and then James Bond and Melina get dragged under the water.
Yeah, they like tie them together. Of course, they tie them together face to face.
Yeah.
And they like, there's this really long rope, and there's like a floaty in between the boat and them, and they're just like dragged back and forth across
Coral
Reef.
Yeah, so they're getting like cut. So there's blood and there's
blood in the
sharks
water,
around. Yeah, but then they're able to use the sharpness of the reef to like cut the rope that's holding them, and then they tie it around a big rock, which like
a big brain coral is what they tie it around.
Sure, if it were, if it were actually that, I think it would have just broken. But
this movie's gonna turn me into an eco-terrorist.
I mean, if God, yeah. We're getting there. But so they're able to escape, and Cristado says it's like, oh well, the sharks must have gotten to him. Whatever. We'll go now. And they go back onto the boat, and on the boat they're like, well, he could have taken the ATAC anywhere. We have no idea. He could be in Moscow by now. And then the bird says, oh, St. Cyril.
Yeah.
And James Bond is like, okay, great. And then they look it up, and they're like, what's St. Cyril? So then the next scene, James Bond goes to this like random Greek town where there's a wedding. He goes into the church and he follows this false wall into the back, and he goes into a confessional, which I don't know if Orthodox priests have. I don't know.
Fair.
And he talks to the guy on the other side, and it's Q in disguise. And he's like, forgive me, Father, for I've sinned. And he says, well, that's putting it mildly, 007, which is great. It's really good.
He's just like, do you know how many St. Cyrils there are in Greece?
There's
like 439 of them.
Yeah, it's like 239, something like that. And so he's like, well, maybe I should talk to somebody. And so they bring Columbo back into the plot. And Columbo is like, yes, I know which St. Cyril it is. It's the one where we hid from the Germans during World War II, which is an abandoned monastery on the top of like a rock. And it's a beautiful, beautiful building. Like,
God, it's so cool.
I don't know if it's real. Like it's just this monastery on the top of this like giant pillar of stone in the middle of the ocean. Like it makes no sense logically, but it's badass. Very cool.
I would live there if I could.
Yep. So then James Bond has to climb up.
He has to climb up a sheer rock face.
Yeah, with ropes and stuff, and he gets attacked while he's going up there, but he's able to defeat the bad guy. And then he gets the winch for the basket to get everybody else up there. And that brings us to the final fight conclusion, where they're fighting through the monastery with the bad guys. They save Bibi and her coach.
Yeah. There's this whole... Okay, so I will commend the James Bond movies for the fact that they, despite the fact that there's a lot of like dubious and non-consensual sex happening, there's not a lot of like sexually directed violence.
Yeah.
Like, James Bond has the weird distortion field where girls just fall in love with him.
Yeah.
But, like, the bad guys are rarely, like, explicitly about to use sex as a weapon against women.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, it's hinted at that Kristatos wants to sleep with BB, and BB says, like, I'm too young for you.
Yeah.
I won't do it. And, like, there is one scene where, like, one of the bad guys, like, puts a knife against Melina's like swimsuit or diving suit thing, but the next scene she's just like in her t-shirt and
she's just tied up.
So I will commend the James Bond movies for that at least. But yeah, like BB is there and she and her coach are about to leave because she just wants to figure skate, and he dragged her out to this fucking monastery on the top of a goddamn mountain in Greece.
Yeah, and she jumps on a trampoline, and I just thought about how the fuck did they get a trampoline up there?
Good question. Unclear.
Yeah, okay, no, like, did they drop it in a helicopter, or did they bring it up piece by piece?
They must have. He must have, like, a fleet of helicopters. This man is a rich smuggler.
I guess so.
They brought it up by helicopter. But yeah, she and her Russian coach are trying to escape.
She's German.
German.
Yeah, her name is Brooke.
Sure, whatever.
Yeah. But the fight happens. They manage to defeat the bad guys.
Oh, Klaus gets shoved off the whole ass
Not
cliff.
Klaus.
Whatever his name is. Who cares? Eric?
Friedrich or whatever.
Whatever.
The East German guy.
East German blonde
He gets
guy.
like pushed over like the side of a building, which we've seen a million times, but then he just falls straight off the cliff, which is amazing.
300 feet down.
Yeah, way more than that.
Probably.
Yeah, and then they get Christados on his knees, and Havelock, she's about to shoot him with her crossbow, and James Bond is like, don't do it, it's not right, we'll turn him over to the police. And it's just like, James, you have killed 30 people.
I don't think he even says that. I think he's just like, revenge isn't the way to do it.
No, he says we'll turn him over to the police.
Oh my god, I missed that too,
Yeah,
apparently.
he and he's like, if you remember, revenge, dig 2 graves. And everyone's just like, and she's just like, all right, fine. And then right as she stops that, Christados pulls a knife out, and then he goes, ugh, and falls over, as it turns out that Columbo threw a knife into his back. A lot of thrown knives in this movie.
A fair amount of them, yeah.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 guys die from thrown knife, and then like 3 or 4 guys die from crossbow. It's very weird. Not a lot of guys got shot.
Yeah. So Melina can't kill him because that would mean that she is no longer like ideologically.
She's no longer pure.
Yeah, but Columbo can because he's a smuggler who gives a shit.
Yeah, he's already kind of a bad guy or
Yeah.
whatever. But and then
morally dubious at best.
they sort of hint that he's going to be the new sponsor for BB at the end, which is like, what? Okay,
whatever,
sure.
fine. Then Bond has the ATAC system.
Yeah.
And the KGB director guy has like come down in helicopter, and
Yeah.
he's got a guy with a gun. And James Bond goes over and acting like he's about to give it to him, and then he flings it off the side of the cliff.
Yeah. And he's like, détente, General. Neither of us have it. And the General just kind of smiles, and he's like, yep, I guess you got me. And he gets back on the helicopter and flies away, which I have to imagine was like a very like political statement in 1981.
Yeah.
That was the era of détente was like the late 70s, and the early 80s it was ramping back up again.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing. So that all happens, and then the day is saved. Hooray. James Bond should have just blown it up when he first found it in there, and we would have been
Yeah,
none
just
the
set
wiser.
off the thermite charge. Who gives a shit? Like,
Whatever,
just
yeah.
blow it up.
And then James Bond gets a communication patched through to the Prime Minister, and James Bond doesn't care, so he gives the communicator watch to the parrot.
While
we
he goes off to go.
have sex with Melina.
Yeah.
And we get this great little scene where someone pretending to be Margaret Thatcher is like, hello, James Bond. I'm glad you've had a successful mission. And she's talking to the parrot. The parrot's like, give us a kiss.
Give us a kiss.
She's like, well, I will do. Okay.
Mr. Bond.
It's really fucking funny.
Now, if you excuse me, I have to go kill a bunch of homosexual people and destroy the welfare state. Ta-ta!
Yeah, God.
Rest in piss, Thatcher.
Yeah, for real. Fuck you, Thatcher. But anyway, and that's the end of the movie.
That's the end of the
This
movie.
I agree. This was fun. Like I said, it'd been a while since I watched this one, and I remember watching it as a kid, and liking it okay, but thinking it was maybe a little slow. But now as an adult, I'm kind of like, no, like it works. It's fun.
Yeah.
I'll go over briefly some of the actors. This wasn't a huge cast. Melina Havelock was played by Carol Bouquet, or Bouquet. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. I think it's Bouquet. She was the face of Chanel No. 5 for years.
Wow.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That makes 100% sense.
Yep. She's still working to this day. She's mostly like in French films, but she was like in an episode of Sex and the City, and like, she does acting.
Oh, I've seen that episode of Sex and the City. Yeah, she's like a fancy Italian or like European like it girl kind of.
Yeah.
And she tries to get Carrie to like move to Italy with her and be like, we can just take a bunch of money from rich men and not have sex with them. It'll be fine.
Yeah, sounds great. Chaim Topol is Milos Columbo. He's an Israeli actor. Most famous for playing Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof.
Yeah.
Both on stage and on film. He's great. He was also in Flash Gordon. You remember Flash Gordon?
I do, yes.
Yeah. The thing he's been doing most recently, although I don't think he's alive anymore. Hang on. That is correct. He died 2 years ago. kind of his later career, he did a lot of like Hebrew dubs of animated films. Like if they made
cool.
they made a Disney film and they needed a Hebrew dub, he would do that. Also, he was like the Hebrew voice for Hagrid in the Harry Potter Israeli dub. Like
That's rad.
just weird stuff like that. Aristotle Christatos was played by Julian Glover. Julian Glover is an actor who has been in just tons of stuff. Very respected Shakespearean actor. He was in Empire Strikes Back. He was in The Last Crusade. Speaking of Harry Potter, he voiced Aragog the Spider in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
He actually was considered for the role of James Bond back like when Roger Moore got the job. He was one of the guys they were kind of thinking about at the time. The thing he probably did most recently that people remember is he was Grand Maester Pycelle in Game of Thrones.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. He was pretty good at that, too. It was a great role. Really fun. BB Doll, the figure skater, was played by Lynn Holly Johnson. She was in Ice Castles and Watcher in the Woods. She did Ice Capades back when that was like first becoming a thing. She is famously considered a very bad actress. She was in a couple of like really bad films. She's just kind of known for being a bad actress. She won a Razzie for a movie she would do in a few years after this for Worst Actress. So Sir Timothy Havelock, the father of Melina Havelock, was played by a guy named Jack Hedley, who had a bit part in Lawrence of Arabia. He was also in How I Won the War, which was a movie that starred John Lennon. It was made in the 60s. Also lots of TV. The reason I bring him up is because he retired from acting because he thought being an actor was dumb. He thought it was like not valuable or worthwhile or artistic in any way.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I don't agree with, but at the same time, like, I mean, go off, King. Like, whatever, speak your truth or whatever.
Yeah, follow your dreams.
Yeah. Liesel, the countess that James Bond sleeps with, and was the mistress of Milos Colombo, was played by a woman named Cassandra Harris. Cassandra Harris was an Australian stage actress. She only did a couple of films. At this point, she was married to this guy named Pierce Brosnan. I'm sure we'll never hear of him again. Nope, not ever. James Villers was the chief of staff, basically the guy filling in for M in this one. He was in Man with the Golden Gun as like a small side character. Perhaps the same character, because he's kind of like in the, MI6, whatever. It might have been him. He thought he was going to be the new M. He was hired for this part, and he thought that he was just going to replace M.
Oh, no.
But he's not in anymore after this one.
Oof.
We get somebody else. A lot of weird little cameos in this. Obviously, totally not Blofeld.
Totally not Blofeld. Don't worry about it. Please don't sue us.
The guy who opens up the door of the car that explodes.
Yeah.
That's Bob Simmons. Bob Simmons, if you recall, was the first guy to appear as Bond in the title sequence, the like gun barrel thing.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a stunt coordinator for some of the early films. He got a little cameo as one of the henchmen here.
Hell yeah, good for him.
Klaus. Klaus is played by Charles Dance. Charles Dance, if any of you remember, is Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones. He was also an eco-terrorist in Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Hell yeah.
He was in Priscilla Queen of the Desert.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, he's in tons of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, Charles Dance rules. Great actor. Love the hell out of him. And then Margaret Thatcher is played by a woman named Janet Brown. Hilariously, Janet Brown made a career of being like a Margaret Thatcher like actor. Like that was like her career, is like she would just appear as Margaret Thatcher in things.
That's amazing.
Yeah, hang on. She entitled her 1986 autobiography Prime Mimicker.
Okay, I gotta give it to her for that. That's pretty good.
And she did a great job. Very fun, good scene there. So, reviews for this film. How did people feel about this film? At the time, the reviews were actually pretty mixed to bad, actually. Like, people at the time really didn't like this one that much.
Yeah, this first thing that I'm seeing, Derek Malcolm in The Guardian said it was too long and pretty boring in between the stunts. Man, what the fuck movie are you watching?
Yeah, I think people sort of like got used to the like over the top ridiculous James Bond and not the like more serious, like more kind of like spy action James Bond. And so they kind of were like, this one's boring. And we didn't really like it that much. It's not inspired or whatever. Which is kind of funny because in retrospect, that's what people like about this one. It's
Yeah.
not over the top and ridiculous. It's more kind of centered on the spy thriller stuff. And the kind of diehard James Bond fans tend to like this one better. It's not usually considered like a top 5, but it's usually considered one of the better ones. A lot of people like it as one of the best, if not the best, Roger Moore specific films,
yeah.
you know? I kind of feel like it's the last Roger Moore film to actually like make any sense, like to work, because the next two are pretty bad. I'm just going to tell you right now, Octopussy is not good, and A View to a Kill is even worse.
Yeah. I feel like the only thing that people know about Octopussy is that it's called Octopussy, and everybody goes ha ha hee hee at that.
It's also the one where Roger Moore is in a clown outfit.
Oh, that's the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in like the very first episode, I asked which one did they put Bond in a clown outfit, because like that is the image that I have in my brain of like every time people talk about like the bad Bond movies, it's Roger Moore in a clown outfit.
Yeah. Yeah. Good news, though, is that it made a lot of money. It didn't make as much as Moonraker, but it did make more than Spy Who Loved Me, although it cost more than Spy Who Loved Me, so it was technically slightly less profitable, but it was still a very profitable film. It absolutely, was very successful, and John Glenn basically got a blank check to make the next bunch of James Bond movies.
Sure.
Because he directed a very successful one. And people really did like his directing style, especially how he directed all the action sequences and stuff. I should also mention that the cinematographer that he worked with is Alan Hume, was a guy that he had been working with for a long time, and the two of them would continue to work together, not just, in movies, but they did, do you remember Space Precinct, that really weird 90s, TV show where it was, a police procedural, but aliens?
I am vaguely aware of it, yes.
Yeah, they both worked on that, too. John Glenn and Alan Hume.
Wild.
Yeah, they continued to work together. They had a good working relationship.
Do you think that they went, hey, we need someone who knows stuff about space, and they were like, John Glenn.
You son of a bitch. How dare you? Okay, all right, fine.
I've been holding back the astronaut joke this entire time.
Well, I salute your restraint. That was pretty impressive. All right, so yeah, do you think this is your favorite one?
This might be my favorite one.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and re-listen to what I thought about The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah.
But it's probably those are 1 and 2 for me.
Yeah, that cool. I mean, I definitely think that this one is in my not maybe my top tier, but is in probably my second tier. It's probably after the top couple, it's probably the next one down.
It is definitely very much an 80s action movie.
Yes.
I think that this sort of set the bar for later 80s action movies.
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of see the roots of tropes that would happen later here.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was actually fairly impressed watching this movie. I'm sort of having this experience where I'm rewatching these films. A lot of them I watched a ton when I was a teenager and haven't watched in 10 to 15 years. And so some of them I'm, watching and going, oh, this is way worse than I remember. Some of them are way better than I remember. And this is one of the ones that was better than I remember,
Really quick side note.
Yeah.
So there's a guy in this movie that looked familiar to me, and I've been trying to track down on IMDb who he is.
Yeah.
And I still haven't figured it out. However, one of the henchmen, I don't know if he was a henchman for the good smuggler or the bad smuggler.
Sure.
But one of them, his name is Jack Claff, and apparently he was in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. He was one of the other, X-Wing fighter guys.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mentioned Julian Glover was in Empire Strikes Back. He's just one of the Imperial officers, the guys who stand in the gray outfits and get choked by, Darth Vader. Which, if that's your fetish, I mean,
Go for it.
absolutely, have a good time.
I wouldn't necessarily tell my boss that I don't believe in magic if he can then magic choke me.
Maybe this thing has some credence here.
Gotta reevaluate my ideas of magic.
Yeah, this one, I think we're done talking about. One last thing to end on. United Artists, they're out of money. Even though this movie was very successful, they're not being run very well, and things are bad. So they're about to be sold to a company that you have heard of.
Ow.
Metro Goldwyn Mayer.
Hey.
That's right. They're going to be merged with MGM, and so from now on, James Bond will be an MGM property.
Heck. Oh, that means there's going to be a lion in front of the next one.
I mean, there's lions in front of all of them because we're watching the DVDs that have been re-released.
Yeah,
like,
but it'll be like on the actual film stock,
okay, sure. Yeah.
not just on the DVD rip.
By the way, we are done with because the collection I have has 24 DVDs, and we just watched 12 of them.
Jeez and Pete's.
Yeah. Well, Blu-rays, but yeah. Congratulations, Hannah.
I have now seen half of the James Bond movies.
Hannah, like, you went a couple months ago to being a complete neophyte and not knowing anything about James Bond to now being, like, more knowledgeable about James Bond than, like, 70% of the populace.
I'm going to knock that down to about 30% because I definitely don't remember most of the shit that we've talked about.
It's in there somewhere. You might not actively remember it, but, like, one day you'll be walking down the street or you'll be watching a movie and you'll be like, oh, that guy, he was in Thunderball.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be like, no, my brain.
I remember faces, but, like, you know.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Any whoozleby.
Any whoozleby.
Well, we're done right there, and we'll see you next time.
See you later, dear listeners.
Mm-hmm.
It is the 80s, 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 80s.
Do a lot of coke and vote for Ronald Reagan. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. You can find us at mythingyourthing.com or at mythingyourthingpod on social media. Thanks to RK Maroon for letting us use their song Macaroni Art from the EP You Can't Eat Horses. You can get it at rkmaroon.bandcamp.com. If you have a thing you think we should talk about, email us at mythingyourthingpod@gmail.com, and maybe that could be our thing.